Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media, consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Can we have the roll call?
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeGraffenreid? Mrs. Frendel?
Here.
Mrs. Lees?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tober? Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Santoro.
Here. Executive session. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public, or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasions, and whereas the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such act. Resolved that the Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigation. And be it further resolved that the discussion in executive session be disclosed when the board's consideration of the subject matter has been closed, or that such matter does not adversely affect the rights of prospective, current, or past public officers or personnel of the board, unless such individuals have in writing requested the disclosures of such discussion at a public meeting, and provided such a public disclosure will no longer clearly endanger the public interest. Can we get a motion to move into executive? Jamie? Okay. Sam for the second? Okay, thank you. Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media, consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Can we have the roll call?
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeGraffenreid?
Here.
Mrs. Frendel?
Here.
Mrs. Lees?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tober? Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Santoro.
Here. Executive session. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public, or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasions, and whereas the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such act. Resolved that the Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigation. And be it further resolved that the discussion in executive session be disclosed when the board's consideration of the subject matter has been closed, or that such matter does not adversely affect the rights of prospective, current, or past public officers or personnel of the board, unless such individuals have in writing requested the disclosures of such discussion at a public meeting, and provided such a public disclosure will no longer clearly endanger the public interest. Can we get a motion to move into executive? Jamie? Okay. Sam for the second? Okay, thank you. Can we do roll call, please?
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeRosa? Here. Mrs. Brenda?
Here.
Mrs. Lees?
Here.
Ms. Nathan?
Here.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tober? Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Santor?
Here. Okay, Mrs. DeMarco, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We have an email from Lori Lipton regarding preschool program and special ed program in the middle school. An email from Heather Gracie regarding Eagle Cord recognition, Burnsville Troop 150. And an email from Luke Hartgen regarding Eagle Scout Cord. All the copies are in the report packets.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Dempsey, the report of the superintendent, please.
Sounds good. Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to report that we have some middle school reporters back with us this evening. I believe Rhodey and Chloe are here. I see you too. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to come up over here by the podium. You can do it. We believe in you. And you're going to make sure that you're speaking into the microphone. The guys in the back are going to make sure that it's working for you, okay? Everybody wants to hear what we have to say.
Hi, my name is Chloe Porter, and I am in the 8th grade at Burnsville Middle School. I am a member of the cross-country team, and right now I'm going to share with you the closing records of the BMS fall sports. Our BMS field hockey team won 6 out of their 12 games. Our girls soccer team made it all the way to the semifinals, and the boys soccer team had some tough losses but some great wins. The girls cross-country team earned 7th place in the county championships. Our teams have been great supporters to each other, and we all inspire each other to do our best. Thank you to all the fall coaches who supported us this season. Our clubs are up and running at BMS. Our Kindness Club held a candy drive where we collected over 235 pounds of candy to be donated to the area of firefighters, police, and veterans. And our student council elections were held for our secretary and treasurer. We will then vote for vice president and president. Also, here's what's going on in the world of an 8th grader at BMS. In art, we're learning how value works to make an object look more realistic. In math, we're learning more about Algebra 1. In literacy, we are working on our research project, Mine is on Voting Rights. And in science, we're learning all about the moon. We look forward to what winter brings at BMS.
My name is Bree Watt, and I'm also in the 8th grade at Burnsville Middle School. I'm a member of the cross-country team and the Warren County Championships. This is the first time it has happened since anybody can remember. We're also getting ready for KG's 10 here at BMS. Every year we do an essay contest for the VFW. It starts with a question that is provided by them, and you have to write a 300 to 400 word essay on the topic. We look forward to hearing about our submissions. We hold a Spirit Day for Veterans Day where students wear red, white, and blue. We try to do this every year to support the people that have fought for our country bravely the best we can. You may have heard about this BMS competition that we do every year, and basically what happens is that we split up into 4 groups or houses. And all in their colleges, Penn State, Rutgers, Princeton, and Duke. And whoever has the most points at the end of the year wins. And currently, Penn State is winning. Also, we hold our annual Scholastic Book Fair for the year. It was held in October, and it was a great experience considering it didn't happen last year. It was held on our stage. Kids loved having you back. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.
Great.
Thank you both. I know it's not easy to get up there and speak in front of a group, but you did a great job. Are either one of you in Penn State or no? No? What are you in Rutgers? What about you, Chloe?
I'm in Rutgers.
Years young, right? All right, and we're happy to have our high school seniors here as well. Mario Fuente and Chris Sun, come on up. Thank you so much for coming. We do appreciate it. I know it's not easy. Good evening, everyone. So unfortunately, we don't have much to report on for tonight, but around after 3 months, the fall sports have officially ended. Specifically, our boys cross-country team placed 12th in the state Group 2 championships and extended the school streak to 11 straight appearances in the race. Girls soccer were co-conference champions of their division. Boys soccer reached the sectional championship and were conference champions of their division. Tennis was the co-conference champion of their division. And football reached the semifinals of their section and were conference champions of their division. And with that being said, our winter sports have started their preseason.
So a little bit more on our extracurriculars at BHS. Last week, our peer leaders started meeting with the freshmen on a weekly basis. Our math league, which is our school-wide math competition, has new results, and our top score has sunk to an impressive 21 out of 30 possible points. The Bernardian, our school yearbook, was evaluated by the GSSPA and was named as top 3 in the entire state.
And in regards to some of the events happening at our high school, next week on Tuesday, November 23rd, student council and peer leaders are hosting a dodgeball tournament. And as of yesterday, around 15 teams of 5 to 6 people are registered and more are signing up each day. And on Monday, we had our NHS induction. This was the first induction done in the fall rather than the spring, but it was a great event. And this weekend, the fall play, Winter Break, will have its opening night. The show will be performed on Friday at 7, Saturday at 2 and 7, and Sunday at 2. And band and choir are also preparing for their concerts early in December.
So this is more specialized towards seniors, but college applications, the November 15th deadline has officially passed, and now students are working on the early December, mid-December, and early January deadlines. And our quarter 1 grades for BHS have been finalized, and some of them have been sent to schools.
And that's all we have for tonight. Thank you. Thank you both.
Always grateful for our students. Before we move on, I wanted to take a minute to thank all of the parents, teachers, administrators, board members, and community members who have participated in the first 2 strategic planning meetings. On October 21st, we welcomed about 50 people to the PAC. We started our work by reviewing the progress that had been made since 2017 on the goals and objectives that were part of the last strategic plan. The tangible progress made across the areas of health and wellness, physical security, and visual arts were significant and stand as a testament to all that can be accomplished through this process. Our New Jersey School Boards consultant, Glenn Thornton, then reviewed the consensus process utilized in strategic planning. The evening's small group work focused on identifying district strengths and challenges. Participants gathered in 6 randomly assigned groups to brainstorm the district's strengths and challenges, and after each group identified these consensus points, outcomes were presented to the large group. The common themes that we talked about were that we have a very talented faculty and staff, committed families and community, strong co-curricular and sports programs, strong social emotional learning, health and wellness and character education programs, in fact a strong curriculum overall. Our AP program was mentioned. We talked about the needs of our English as a second language community and the delivery of language instruction. We talked about life skills and career technical education opportunities, transitions between buildings and grade levels, balancing technology and enhancing our tech offerings, community collaboration and outreach, facility upgrades, and funding and enrollment. This work then continued on November 11th. We again welcomed about 50 participants, but this time small group work focused on creating a shared vision for the district's future. Participants were asked to picture themselves having been away from the district for 5 years, returning to Somerset Hills, launching a Google search, and finding mention of the district in the schools that succeed post. In addition to the current programs already in place, participants were challenged to imagine what programs or services, curriculum, student outcomes, best practices, or facilities we expected would lead to this type of recognition. Participants were encouraged to think big picture. Small groups gathered to review the outcomes from meeting number 1, and then begin brainstorming on their vision for the district. After group discussion, each group identified their consensus points and presented these to the full group of meeting participants. This time, the following common themes emerged: facilities and fields, inclusion, local citizens, individualized education, providing support for staff and students, social emotional learning for staff and students, community engagement, partnerships with municipalities, companies, and corporations, a greater use of technology, alternate pathways, capstone projects and thesis projects, and career explorations. In listening to all of the shared, went through and identified 5 goal areas for further work, namely facilities, social and emotional learning or health and wellness, diverse pathways to student success, community engagement and partnerships, and culture and climate. On Monday, December 13th, meeting participants will have a final opportunity to develop goals and objectives for each goal area that will guide Somerset Hills Regional School District for the next several years. Sign up will look a little different this time, and then each participant can personally identify which of the 5 goal areas he or she would like to work on. A pre-registration form will go out just after Thanksgiving, and we encourage any and all who are interested in this work to consider attending. Lastly, I just wanted to let the board know that in December, Dr. Edgerton will be here to present testing data. We have, from a standpoint of our typical spring testing, we've got to go back to spring of 2019, that she actually presented to the board and the public in the fall of 19. But we're going to combine that information with the results of the last Start Strong assessment that we gave last month, and then our internal benchmarks that we added through the IOE program in both math and language arts. So we look forward to that. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Dempsey. Appreciate the update. Thank you to all our students who I think have gone home to do homework and go to bed. Okay. Public comments for actionable agenda items. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes. And again, I just want to remind everybody to please listen silently as other people are speaking and be respectful of all of our commenters. Thank you for your input. Okay, seeing no public comment on actionable agenda items, can I get a motion to close? Larry, first. Sam, second. All in favor? Okay. Approval of minutes. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes? Abby and Kristen, second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. DeGromford?
Yes.
Mrs. Funda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tobin?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandra?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we can move into committee reports. Bob, finance, please.
Okay, the Finance Committee met last Wednesday, November the 10th, for 45 minutes. It was attended by all members, including Dr. Dempsey and Mrs. DeMarco. We talked about 3 items. First one was transportation. We always talk about transportation these last few months. The good news is we have the software and that we talked about the last few meetings for doing bus routing, and the staff is being trained on that, and hopefully we'll get some feedback on how things are going at our next committee meeting. We talked about the fiber optic switches that we had approved to replace, but with the supply chain causing a lot of difficult problems of getting all these switches, we were able to, because these are end-of-life switches, so if they fail, we're in big trouble. But we got an extended warranty for these switches, just like when they call you at home and want to extend your car warranty. But no, this is a real extended warranty for $14,000, and there's a resolution on the addendum for, which is number 13. So we're voting on that tonight. But because of that too, our IT person discovered that the switches that we ordered months ago, there's some better ones on the market, so we're going to cancel those and get the new switches that are going to be better. And because we've got this coverage for about a year. And if we get the switches in before that, we will get, it's the money back on what we haven't spent. So we got $14,000 and it covers, if we get 50% of the switches done before the end of the year, we'll get some of that back. And the last item we talked about was the budget process. The budget process will start this month, and the administrators and all department heads will come up with their budget needs and give that to the business administrator. They'll collate it, get it together, and then the committee will get to review it in January, and then we'll have a public hearing, we'll have a public presentation in March of what the draft budget looks like, and then in April we'll have a public hearing on the budget, and then we approve it at that time. We can't approve it into May, but we normally approve it at that time unless there's something that comes up at the public hearing that we need to change. And that's pretty much what we talked about, so I'd like to move action items 1 through 14, and 3 of them are on the addendum. Do I have a second? Any questions about what I discussed about any of the finance items? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clifford? Yes. Mrs. DeGarmo? Yes. Mrs. Friendly? Yes. Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tobin?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandra?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Pat, facilities and operations.
Facilities and operations met last Wednesday from 4 until approximately 5 p.m. All the members of the committee were in attendance. Mr. Rosen, because he was in another meeting, arrived a little late. Dr. Dempsey was also present, as was Mrs. DeMarco. We talked about the long-range facility plan. The one we have is from, I believe, 2020, and the district is in the process of updating it. We need to look carefully at the monies listed in the old plan, because we know what cost whatever in 2020 is going to cost more in 2021. It was decided that in order to accurately gauge needed updates to facilities, the committee would meet for the next 3 months at individual district schools so that we could get a first-hand look at what might be a priority. So we will be meeting at Bedwell on December 8th. And from there, in January, we'll go to BMS, and in February, we will go to BHS. We also talked about some proposed additions, and the material is there for you all to look at and to see what the work that has already been done on this and work that needs to be done. We also talked about facilities rentals of the PAC and the BHS classrooms. And it was the committee's feeling that we wanted to spend more time to evaluate how best to use classrooms and the PAC before we open rentals again to outside groups. We're primarily concerned with the PAC and the delicate audiovisual equipment that's there and the sensitive lighting equipment. And so we didn't table it, but we're going to do a little bit more examination. It was brought up and suggested that BHS start time be moved to a little bit later in order to accommodate students coming from the train. It would give children, in theory, a little bit later to sleep in the morning, which is always a good thing for teenagers. But if implemented, changing the start time of BHS would have ripple effects for BMS and then BES. So we're not really sure where we're going to go with that. It was a suggestion. I think it's something that Mrs. DeMarco is now going to look into and report back to us on that. It was noted that New Jersey Transit has in the past changed their schedule, and so we're concerned about that too, because we changed the school time and then they changed their schedule. That's not going to be so great. It was also noted that because we now offer the ability for students to take a bus to school, they have a little bit more leeway in terms of their arrival time at school. The media center at, let me say it in English. The after-hours media center will start, I believe, this month. Yes, so we're going back to hours that we did pre-COVID. Dr. Nigel will be taking care of that, and that's all that I have to report out. So I'd like to move action items 1 through 6. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Lees.
I just wanted to mention that pre-COVID, a group of us had gone down to Princeton to listen to a speaker about student sleep and school start times, and it was a really, really good presentation. And I saw today on New Jersey School Board's email that doctor, I think his name is Dr. Mandelbaum, he's going to be speaking again soon. And I don't remember the date, but in listening to your report, it reminded me that it was a really valuable presentation about what kids need and what they're not getting, and performance and mental health issues and all that stuff. So I would encourage anybody who didn't hear him the first time to check it out. I think it would help inform discussions about school start times. And the other thing I wanted to mention was I looked at the long-range planning sheet that you guys worked on, and of course all prices have gone up, and it was kind of shocking, but I guess I had forgotten. I was really surprised at how expensive the track resurfacing is relative to the turf replacement. It's a lot more money than that. So that whole project is going to cost the district more than I think I had thought it was, like over $800,000 potentially. So, but I think it's something that needs attention, and it's just a big nut.
I would agree with you on it needs attention because I walk that track a lot, and I know exactly where it needs some help.
Yeah, can I just like to support, I fully strongly support moving the start time by just 5 minutes. I think such a small change would have a huge impact on the kids that take the train. The 6:48 train is very early, and it would just, give the kids a half an hour extra sleep. And, you know, the 7 to 8 train, I know some kids take it, but this is just from Gladstone, I know the other times are different, but they're rushing, they often don't make it, they're marked absent. It's a tough time, and I understand the challenges of the move, but I strongly support that.
Ginny's going to look at the way that the 2 tiers of buses fit together, because I know some of them have a wait time between those 2 tiers. I think if Denver is impacted, it's a bigger project, if you will, than if it's just middle school and high school.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jamie, just to kind of, I know before COVID, we were really starting to embark on those discussions, and it was not going to happen overnight. Those were going to be about moving the start time a bit later in the day for the district. And, you know, that may be, well, we're glad to pick up again going forward once we move past pandemic.
Yeah, I agree.
Pandemic, but I do just want to know, and I'm glad you brought it up, that what we were referencing and talking about in F&O is right now just 5 minutes, which would make a significant difference for the kids, specifically that are taking the training, because that might be a little bit easier to launch. We'll find out once Ginny and Dr. Dempsey get some information, but it is, you know, again, and I wholeheartedly support that 5 minutes. If we can make it happen, you know, for the students to get that extra half hour of sleep.
Agree.
Is there any further discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGronka?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson? Mrs. Tobin?
Yes.
Mrs. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Sandor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Nicole, curriculum, please.
Thanks. Heather. The Curriculum Committee met on Tuesday, November 9th for 2 hours. All committee members were in attendance along with Dr. Dempsey, Dr. Butler, Dr. Nigel, and Ms. Walker. First, Ms. Walker reviewed the updated Bernard's High School profile with the committee. Overall, Ms. Walker emphasized that the class of 2021 did quite well despite the challenges of COVID. Recent graduates are now attending a variety of prestigious institutions, including MIT, several Ivies, and Juilliard. Compared to the class of 2020, there was a slight decrease in the percentage of graduates attending 4-year colleges and a slight increase in the percentage of graduates attending 2-year institutions. AP scores also slightly decreased, possibly due to COVID-related challenges with AP testing, and I think those decreases were seen throughout nationwide. However, the median GPA increased by 0.2 of a point, possibly due to the use of the pass-fail option by some students last year. Dr. Nigel then joined us to review his proposal for the new system to replace the top 20 form of academic recognition for seniors with pre-specified GPA cutoffs. And just as a reminder, the committee fully supported this proposal because it provides a clear metric that students can work towards on their own without the necessity of competing with other students. Because students preferred a 2-tier cum laude system of recognition, he proposed a GPA cutoff of 4.3 for students to receive the magna cum laude distinction and a cutoff of 4.48 for students to receive the summa cum laude distinction. Next, Dr. Butler presented a preliminary action plan for addressing the disturbing trends in harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports in our district. The administration's plan is designed to foster a learning environment that highlights and promotes diversity, including economic diversity, equity, inclusion, tolerance, and belonging in connection with gender and sexual orientation, race and ethnicity, disabilities, and religious tolerance. It will also encourage safe, welcoming, and inclusive environments for all students regardless of race or ethnicity, sexual and gender identities, mental and physical disabilities, and religious beliefs. The committee agreed that this initiative might be most successful if it gained the support of the broader Somerset Hills community. To enhance students' understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion through the K-12 curriculum and programs, Dr. Butler said that initial steps will focus on identifying areas for growth and areas of need by reviewing the existing curriculum to note where related instruction already exists, working with staff to generate and share ideas, administering a professional development survey to staff, exploring available options that might meet the needs of the school, supporting teachers through professional development, developing a cohesive summer curriculum plan, and connecting with other districts with strong existing plans. She also proposed supporting several professional development opportunities and student clubs designed to encourage safe, welcoming, and inclusive environments for all students. For example, she recommended that the district's leadership team participate in the Equity in Action Leadership Academy, curriculum supervisors participate in equity facilitator training, and that staff members attend SEED training. Dr. Butler emphasized that the action plan is designed to be flexible and may need to be reviewed and modified over time to meet the needs of the students, teachers, parents, and the community at large. Variables such as available time, money, resources, state requirements, and feedback from stakeholders may affect this plan in the future. Given the concerning nature and a number of harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases in our district, the committee fully supported Dr. Butler's plans. We also discussed some disturbing instances by student spectators at recent BHS sporting events, suggesting that the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion education extends beyond the middle school. The committee emphasized the need for the continuity of character education beyond Bedwell and into BMS and high school, and the need to seek buy-in from key stakeholders among the staff and the community, perhaps through the HSAs. After her presentation, Dr. Butler switched gears to review the permissions that will be distributed to students interested in participating in the Harvard Model Congress trip. The committee approved the form. The committee also approved all professional development and field trip requests, including the 4th grade trip to Bromsu. We'll be voting on those tonight. We then reviewed the new and updated request for reconsideration of curriculum materials form. The committee members approved the form and agreed that an electronic version of the form should also be available. Finally, we discussed timing for the review and approval of athletic coaches. Our goal is to conduct these reviews as appropriate on an ongoing basis. And that concludes my report. I'd like to move items 1 through 6 on the agenda and number 3 on the addendum. Do I have a second? Thanks. Any discussion?
I had a quick question. Given the nature of a lot of discussion that you guys had in curriculum and the fact that you referenced some concerning incidences at athletic events, I was just curious, because I apologize if this is something that I should know, but do we have some type of code of conduct or expectations surrounding spectator behavior at events, and what would, mandate being either excluded or removed? And the other piece is our code, I don't know if code of conduct's the right word, but the expectations for student athletes and their behavior on the field, does that extend also to them as spectators?
So there is a board policy around spectator expectations that would certainly speak to the incidents that we discussed. From a standpoint of athletes, there is a code of conduct in terms of an expectation for athletic participation. I am hopeful that we see progress in this area. It is somewhat disconcerting to have other districts approach me with concerns about behavior, and not of our athletes, to be clear. This is of spectators.
To that end, I would just say that we've been out of school for a long time, and I think that our regular school and regular activity participation and spectatorship and all those kinds of things. So I know that a lot of rules kind of went out the window over the course of the pandemic for certain things, and even at the high school level, kids are relearning, or relearning appropriateness, perhaps. I think this goes further than that, but in terms of taking a breath and taking a moment to maybe address that policy with the student body, with the student athletes, with the coaches, overall with the athletic program. I think we're presented with an opportunity as we work through the pandemic and come out of it of reinforcing appropriate behaviors and expectations throughout the buildings, on athletic field, and so on.
Do we maybe need signage on the field when you enter to remind people to be respectful and polite? I don't know, it seems silly, but it seems like some of the behavior has really been pretty awful.
I think that's something to consider perhaps.
We could add it to all of the signage that we have already. It's a laundry list of reminders. And I just would hate to see something this important kind of anchored by that. It's not that I think it's a bad idea, I just think that we need something more substantial in terms of response.
At least the sign, from what I understand, it's not always just the students. I mean, maybe the signs can reach some of the other people attending that we can't necessarily reach within the buildings.
It may be part of a plan to kind of one piece of the plan to look at the whole. So it sounds like that could be more sort of based on what we've been experiencing as a district.
And we also have a naturally built-in group that can help us with this, because the children that are doing recreation sports, we can reach out to the recreation sport coaches and whatnot. I know also baseball, football, there's soccer and wrestling and things like that. So we do the character education that we already do at Benoit, but also do it with sporting groups. The more messages repeated, the more it tends to get through.
Right. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGarber?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tobin? Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santora?
Yes, but I need to abstain from 5C.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, Kathy, personnel, please. Thanks, Heather. The personnel committee met on November 11th at 3 p.m. for about an hour. All board members were in attendance, which included Mrs. DeGrompe, Mrs. Lees, Mrs. Santoro, and myself. We were also joined by Dr. Dempsey and Dr. Butler. The topics that were discussed at this meeting all surrounded matters related to personnel. At this time, I'd like to move item numbers 1 through 11, as well as item number 12 on the addendum. May I have a second, please? Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGarber?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tobin? Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santora?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Jamie, policy.
Thank you. The policy committee met on November 11th for about an hour. We had all committee members attending, as well as Dr. Dempsey. We talked about 2 items. We talked about our Board of Ed bylaws. We have 53 different bylaws, and some of the updates go back quite some time. So when we had our meeting about board goals, we talked about having some training around our bylaws. So we decided that it's appropriate and necessary for the committee to review the bylaws, make sure that they are updated and relevant, and we're going to split them up in the committee, which we'll do after the board meeting. The week after the board meeting. We're going to split them up between committee members to kind of take a look at them and create a Google Doc and see what needs attention with this. We'll review the list at our next committee meeting and discuss our observations. We also talked about our committee structure, and we were brainstorming ways to make our committees more effective and efficient. The group acknowledged that our committee work is really vital, but we also recognize that it takes up a great deal of administrative time. So some suggestions were tossed around, including once again merging policy and personnel as we had in years past, and a way to figure out how to make community relations more effective. We thought it might work to embed the work in the Community Relations Committee in each committee where the topic is relevant. It's important to us that the committee knows that we're listening. The community knows that we are hearing what they have to say, and it's important to have the work done on those items in a committee which will actually potentially take some action. So we're going to kick that idea back to the Community Relations Committee for considerations, and we also discussed that we wouldn't make any structural changes to the committee structure until January in reorg. With that, I'd like to move items 1 through 2 on the agenda. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. Nicole, any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call?
Before roll call, I wanted to remove item P2425 from number 1, as it is also in number 2, and it should be in number 2. So with that, Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. D. Garfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Fremden?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Ms. Leavens?
Yes.
Mr. Rosen? Mrs. Tober? Mrs. Ryan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Awesome. Community relations.
Okay, thanks. Community Relations met last Tuesday on the 9th at 8:45 in the morning. All of our members were in attendance: Ms. Lees, Ms. Santoro, Ms. Cooper, Ms. Nathans, Dr. Dempsey, and Dr. Butler as well. Basically, we spent almost the entirety of our meeting discussing the trends that could be found in the outcomes from the first strategic plan meeting. And all of the outcomes from the individual group work can be found on the district homepage under the shortcuts by clicking on strategic plan. And Dr. Dempsey already did a wonderful job of articulating the strengths and challenges that came out of that first meeting's work. So I am not going to reiterate all that because she really did cover a great deal of what we discussed. We also noted that the pre-registration process would have different parameters and look slightly different, and Dr. Dempsey also addressed that in her opening statement. So that will go out after Thanksgiving, as Dr. Dempsey mentioned, and we hope that you will look in your inboxes for that, and also it will be posted on the homepage of the district website. And if for any reason you're not getting the information or you're looking to register and you can't find it, you can reach out to Dr. Dempsey with a subject line email indicating that that is what you're looking to accomplish. The other item that we discussed was in relation to community concerns and feedback, and it basically centered around, unfortunately, the recent passing of a Bernard's alumni, coupled with the recent loss of a current BHS student, and the impact that that is having on our student population. The Traumatic Loss Coalition had been brought in on both occasions to help guide and to provide support for students and staff struggling with these losses, and the district has relied on their expertise and recommendations. We discussed the ongoing community and student conversations and struggles as related to these tragedies and the impact that social media has on student grief and how they process the events. We all recognize there is a need for continued support for these students as they are very sensitive to continuing gossip and potential contagion effects. It's critical that students and staff are continually reminded of building resources available to them as well as outside resources and how to access those. Additionally, Dr. Dempsey indicated that there was a vigil that was held not through the school, outside of the school, but she did indeed reach out to the police department and wanted to provide information for resources to support any potential reactions that were resulting from vigil participations. And that was pretty much the totality of discussion in community relations, and I have no items to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We can move on to supplementary matters. Does anyone have anything this evening?
I have a supplementary matter. I'm going to ask everyone to indulge me because I'm going to read most of what I have here just for the sake of clarity. All of us had the opportunity to attend school boards workshops with the New Jersey School Boards Association at the end of October, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us for training and for ongoing professional development for us as a board. I personally attended various communication workshops, and additionally, I attended workshops for best practices in boardsmanship and board members' personal responsibility. The importance of the board's role in providing two-way communication with the public and making sure we take the time to help the public understand how and why the board operates as it does, especially when there seems to be some level of misunderstanding, was a central theme that ran throughout these specific workshops that I attended. And to that end, I would just like to address comments that I made last month as part of my community relations report, explaining the chain of command process for the district. I would like to take a moment to apologize, as it appears I didn't do an adequate job in my explanation of this process, as subsequent public comments indicated my explanation was received far differently than I intended. As Chair of Community Relations, it is critical that my explanations to the community be clear and easily understood, as they are often intended to help educate the public on distinctions between board and administrative processes and help to alleviate frustration on behalf of the public that may arise from misunderstanding the different roles and responsibilities. The ultimate goal is always for everyone to know who to address their concerns to and to make sure that resolution is achieved in the most efficient and effective way possible. So I want to be very clear. If in any way I communicated to anyone that we were looking to dissuade anyone from public comment, it was actually the exact opposite of what I was trying to accomplish. The board very much encourages and appreciates public comments at our meetings. Listening to the public is not only our responsibility as elected officials and representatives of the community, but critical to being effective board members. All comments from the public help to inform us and become a part of our consideration in committee conversations and how we ultimately vote when items do come before us for action. Public comments are essential to making the best possible decisions for our district. Public comments are often separate and distinct from the chain of command I referenced last month. Public board meetings are strictly a listening session for board members when the opinions or information being presented are not currently related to items in front of us for action. If there are misunderstandings, clarifications can be made by either the superintendent or the board president. And if more investigating needs to be done to be able to adequately answer a question, the superintendent or appropriate staff member can follow up with those members of the public following the meeting. The chain of command must be utilized if a member of the community is looking for action and/or resolution regarding individual matters of concern or matters that are not currently before the board for consideration. Those questions and concerns should be directed to the staff member most closely associated with the issue. Although an individual is welcome to make public comments on these matters as well, it must be handled via the chain of command before the board can take action. This process is outlined in District Policy 9130 and states, only in those cases where satisfactory adjustment cannot be made by the superintendent and the staff shall communications and complaints be referred to the board for resolution. This is standard policy across New Jersey. Additionally, we all sign a code of ethics when we assume our role on the board, and we take an oath to abide by this code throughout our service. Section J of that code reads, I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. So, for more information on this policy, the code of ethics, and the roles and responsibilities of the board and the superintendent, I encourage you to visit the About section of BOE page on the district website at shsd.org, which was updated this summer, and I think you'll find there is a wealth of information regarding board process, board function, distinctions between board and administrative roles. All public comments are always welcome, and we want to hear from our community on matters that are important to them, but there is still a process that both the board and the public must follow to have action taken or to achieve resolution on issues. Thank you for indulging me. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to the public, because one of our most important roles is making sure that there's clear two-way communication between the board and the community.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, we will move on to public comments. Public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. And I will just note, Jamie will hold up a sign when you have 30 seconds left, so that way you know you can begin to wrap up. We appreciate your input.
Hello everyone, my name is John Tober, and I am the Senior Patrol Leader of Troop 150 in Bernardsville, New Jersey. I am also a sophomore here at Bernards High School, and I am currently working toward my Eagle Scout rank. Myself and members of my troop have come here tonight to talk about the rank of Eagle Scout. For those of you who do not know, the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest rank in the scouting program and is earned by hard work. And practicing scouting values. One of the items Eagle Scouts receive after receiving their rank is a cord, which they are usually allowed to wear at their high school graduation. Last year at the high school graduation, one of our Eagle Scouts from our troop was denied the ability to wear the cord at their graduation. The rank of Eagle Scout requires Scouts to do many things. Scouts have to learn basic scouting skills that will help them in life, such as first aid, cooking, navigation, outdoor skills, and knots. This is only the first step as they master these skills. They are given the opportunity to test their leadership and are given a leadership position. Though adults are always present at our programs for health and safety, our youth leadership is responsible for running and organizing all the programs we hold as a troop. They also have to earn a variety of merit badges, teaching some skills that will further educate them on scouting values and other skills. Many of these badges they will get to choose based on what they are interested in. These badges can teach them skills like citizenship in the community, wilderness survival, and even skills like welding and economics. And finally, the final test of Eagle Scouts' ability, in order to get their Eagle rank, Scouts will have to plan and organize their very own project that will help a local community organization. They have to file a ton of paperwork, often go through the bureaucratic processes of getting the project approved, buy the materials, and later lead the Scouts in completing the project. Along the way, Scouts are taught to practice all these values. They are taught both in scouting and outside of scouting. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. These are values that our school should encourage all of its students to practice and should allow its students to practice them and earn the rank of Eagle to wear their Eagle cord at their high school graduation ceremony. Thank you.
John, can I just ask you one question?
Yes.
I know that last year when this issue came up, it was very close to the graduation date, and that complicated the decision-making because of things that had come before this. Have you had this conversation this year with Dr. Michael?
I have not. We thought the best course of action would be to come here. I'm still a sophomore, so I still have a little bit to go before I reach my high school graduation,
Right.
so I have not had that conversation.
So I guess thinking about what Sam Frenda just talked about, I would encourage anybody who wants to have that conversation at the building level. We're certainly happy to hear all you have to share, and I would hate to think that any prior decisions sent a message that perhaps we did not value what Scouts are all about and what Eagle Scouts have been able to accomplish. But I would say a conversation there would be a great place to start.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Steve, 31 Amber Place, Steve Tobin, 31 Amber Place. First, I want to just give my sincere condolences to the recent tragic passing of the Bernards alumnus. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now. I'll start off. Do Somerset Hill schools teach critical race theory? We are told that the Somerset Hill School District does not teach critical race theory. Instead, we hear in return, quote, "We teach equity, diversity, and inclusion," as stated by Superintendent Dr. Dempsey at a recent Board of Education meeting. Now that sounds much better, and who could really disagree with that? But let's take a closer look, because we need to know that critical race theorists are masters of word and language manipulation.
Here are some euphemisms deployed by the CRT supporters. They use words such as equity, diversity, inclusion, social justice, and cultural responsive teaching. These deceptive words are no surprise to those of us who have researched the true meaning of CRT. At two previous Board of Education meetings, the Board President, Mrs. Santoro, publicly stated the following. Number one, I quote, "We do not teach critical race theory." And number two, critical race theory is a theory taught in law schools, unquote. Actually, the Board of Ed conflated theoretical CRT from academia with the practical application of CRT in K through 12 schools. CRT is no longer a theory. It is, in fact, being practiced on all children each and every day in school under the guise of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Remember, word games are being used to dupe the public. We are to conclude that the Board of Education purposely made misleading statements to deceive the public. One has to wonder, why would the Board of Education do this? This is a default maneuver of those who advocate identity-based approaches and who want DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, to remain unchallenged, where it can continue to erode traditional American culture and values. It then solidifies the opinions of those who believe that America is fundamentally racist and an oppressive country founded on white supremacy. DEI advocates believe that approaches like DEI are needed to fundamentally transform the nation by way of its children, not simply to improve it, but to transform it.
Let's keep it informal.
Good evening, my name is Eileen Fowling. I work at 8 Meadowbrook Parkway in Marshall, New Jersey. I'm the advancement sphere of Troop 150 and proud mother of Eagle Scout candidate Benjamin Loudon. Eagle Scout is the highest achievement attainable in Boy Scout program. Since 1911, less than 4% of scouts have earned this rank. Many scouts start their journey back at the age of 6 in first grade, and the average age of a Eagle Scout is 17.3 years old. Therefore, many will dedicate over 10 years of their young life to this goal. As a Cub Scout, a Scout will work to advance 7 ranks from Bobcat to Arrow Light. Cub Scouts advancements include activities that are carefully selected to encourage moral, physical, and intellectual development. In 5th grade, the Scouts will transition to Boy Scouts, where again they will work to advance 7 ranks on the way to Eagle. The first 4 ranks continue their life skills they started in Cub Scouts, but the final 3 ranks, the Scouts are expected to take a position of responsibility in which they are accountable to their fellow Scouts to mentor, lead, and support during the journey. In addition, they are required to earn 21 merit badges and complete an extensive community service project. However, the requirement I admire the most is the one that requires the Scout to demonstrate Scout spirit, an expectation that the Scout will put his best foot forward to serve others. In my son's journey, I've seen this spirit grow in the following ways. He brightened the days of less fortunate children by helping them unkind their journeys at the McKinley School. He honored our veterans by placing flags in the cemeteries and participating in Memorial Day parades. He contributed to his school communities by working on Eagle projects in Bedwell Garden and building picnic tables for BHS. He's volunteered his time at multiple religious organizations. He grew his appreciation of the nation's history by visiting Gettysburg, Valley Forge, West Point, and Annapolis. He participated in numerous conservation projects at Ship, Audubon, and other local nature preserves. He trained nearly a year to attend Philmont Scout Ranch, where he hiked approximately 80 miles in 10 days in the rugged New Mexico wilderness. On the trek, he participated in conservation projects to rejuvenate land damaged by forest fire. He did this twice in his scouting career. He's actively involved in the National Youth Leadership Program. Nominated to attend training at age of 13, Ben was invited to return as staff starting in 2016. Since then, he has volunteered more than 150 hours per year teaching leadership skills to other scouts. This year, he helped develop a new nationwide pilot program in February and served as senior patrol leader in November. In 2021, amidst the backdrop of COVID and alongside the pressures of completing his Eagle project and college applications, Ben has volunteered more than 450 community service hours through scouting. This achievement alone deserves recognition. Ben was not able to attend tonight. If he was here, he would be advocating for all the young scouts and the rising through the ranks behind them. Many have traveled the same path as Ben. I am honored to stand here today to represent such an amazing group of young future leaders. The mental health of our children is a heightened concern in our community. I submit to you that in these times we should be celebrating all they have accomplished rather than suppressing it. With our respectful request that we reverse our decision about cords being worn at graduation. Not just for the Boy Scouts, but for any group that can come before you and demonstrate their willingness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. And I would just note, as Dr. Dempsey said, this is something that should be taken up with Dr. Nigel at the building level, since he plans, organizes, and executes graduation.
I will definitely follow up with him tomorrow. I'll be sending him an email myself and make sure my son benefits.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in for your comment.
Hi, my name is David Loudon, and I am an Assistant Scoutmaster for Burnsville 150. I actually thought this was the right forum to address, and apparently it is not. I apologize for that, because I prepared stuff. This is a demonstration of what the codes look like, so they will have to be matched to Burnsville. Right. So, like I said, that was the right forum. We teach the guys that if we think something's unjust, this is how we change it. We don't just disobey it.
And it was not my intent to make anybody feel, we're happy you're here. I just always want to be sure that we are addressing things in the way that resolves things as expeditiously as possible.
100% with you. I have 3 Marine Scouts here, and they are going to address that with Dr. Nigel, and we'll see where we go with that. And now we'll be back next time.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night. Thank you.
And we certainly appreciate learning about the accomplishments of the Eagle Scouts and all the Boy Scouts. So,
Yes.
thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. I've met you before. I'm a concerned citizen from Burnsville. My name is Kathleen Shepherd, 16 Ambar Place, here in Burnsville. Are we ready? I gotta do this fast. The Economist, June 2021, says a huge 58% of all Americans reject CRT. So change the name to Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, DIE for short. Just look at the Board of Education of Loudoun County, Virginia to see how DIE is being received. This blue state's parents arose and squashed it. It's banned by some states. Then some boards remain oblivious to the inevitable booms falling. Loudoun County Board is going to be sued out of their minds. One student rapist and the Board of Education's terrible judgment. The result, an epic lawsuit. Were I running a school board, I'd be out of the DIE business yesterday. DIE in our public schools is a vehicle for changing the cultural identity of children from K through 12th grade. No more parental culture. Schools are now the agents of change, empowering the new culture in America, socialism, inevitably followed by communism. America in the 1960s was in cultural political upheaval. Martin Luther King's nonviolent civil rights movement was the centerpiece. Marxism lay in wait in our universities. Students eagerly exchanged family culture for the totalitarian culture of Marxism. The classless society with everyone equally cared for by government. Diversity training has kept Marxism alive in our universities. It's the default ideology of our institutions, governmental agencies, public schools, teacher training programs, corporate human resources departments. Your children, returning home on semester break, speak a different language. Family culture is not blended with acquired culture. No more ruling class, but bigger government. This is socialism. No unique identity. No class distinction. The biggest exception, the ever-growing centralized government. Our Burnsville school kids will be living reformulated Marxism. How about no more private property rights transferable to one's children? Or there's the Department of Anti-Racism, totally independent of government oversight, empowered to nullify, veto, abolish any laws at any level of government. No more free speech. The woke darling political activist Ibram Kendi says, to be truly anti-racist, you must be truly anti-capitalist. Changing a child's basic culture identity is the means, and Marxism is the way to the inevitable communism. Through DIE, we are being prescribed a revolutionary program intending to overturn the principles of our beloved Declaration of Independence and destroy the remaining...
Excuse me, I'm sorry, what time was that?
Less than a sentence.
Okay.
The remaining structure of our Constitution, which is our way of being the light of the world and fully American. If they ask me, I say no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just before you speak for a second time, does anybody else have any other comments this evening?
And Barbara Long, Norwood. And recently I was looking at some of the records for achievement and really distressed me. Comparing Brothers High with Ridge High, we are in the top 50%. Ridge High is in the top 10%. Total students for us in the high school, this is 852, in Ridge High 1,883. Student ratio to teachers, 13-1, both schools. Overall testing rank, we are 989 out of 2,221, so we're only in the top 50%. Ridge is 222nd out of 2,221 schools. They're in the top 10%. The math scores for birds are 40, it would put us in the 43 percentile. In Ridge, they're in the 70 percentile. Language arts, 68% for birds and 85% for Ridge. Cost of students, cost per student is basically the same for both schools. This is serious. This reflects on our real estate values. It obviously reflects on what the students are learning. Have we lost sight of basic learning skills? We shouldn't be testing like this. In all the years I've lived here, this is about some of the worst scores I've ever seen for this high school. We've traditionally been up in like one of the top 4. And I'm really very shocked at this. So I hope when you have your curriculum discussions, and all your other discussions on your subcommittees, you look at basic learning skills, because our schools should not be so low. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Steve Tobin again, 31 Ambar Place. Why are graphic books available to youngsters that promote oral and anal sex? Photos in these books depict anal and oral sex between a child and an adult. Why did the New Jersey School Boards Association mandate teaching anal and oral sex in our public schools starting in 8th grade? Is the Somerset Hills School District trying to, quote, normalize pedophilia? After all, when children are exposed to these sex acts in school, an institution which is supposedly safe in the minds of children, the message is that pedophilia is normal. California has already passed a law stating that if a minor is the initiator of anal or oral sex with an adult, the adult can no longer be charged with pedophilia. Remember the saying, as goes in California, as goes the rest of the country. Seems like the schools that are priming children to be sex trafficked. Is Loudoun County, Virginia case, is that the perfect example? Why are these in our libraries? Why is the Somerset Hills School District allowing these books to be in our libraries? The silence is deafening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, so any other public comments at this time? Seeing as
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh.
Can we get a motion to close public comments?
I'll make a motion to close.
Thank you, Bob. Jamie, second. Now can we get a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Bob. Second, Larry. Thank you, everyone.